my beautiful plant people. If we haven't met before, I am Sam, the proud owner of Plant Collector Melbourne, and today's video gets me equally as excited as equally as sad, because we are going to be talking about plant disasters. So plants that have come into my care for whatever reason, decided to leave, decided to die on me. I thought it would be a great opportunity to look back in the past, to see the things that I have learned, but going down memory lane to look at all these plants that for one reason or another didn't make it under my care. And I will be teaching you guys everything that I've learned through that experience. So without further ado, let's get into it. Ew. So my friends, we have about 5 different plants or planty things that I'm going to be talking about today. And I'm going to show you guys all of the photos of the deceased that are no longer with us. And I'm going to tell you maybe the story, a bit of background of these plants, and just telling you what unfolded in these disasters. So the first one, I think I'm going to get progressively worse. So the first one so far doesn't hurt my heart every time that I think about it. But the more that we go along, the more trauma, the more hurtfulness that I will feel. But this one's not too bad. And maybe you guys would have actually experienced it as well. So my friends, the first plant disaster, or the thing that I have learned after having this plant not necessarily die, but not really do well, is my Alocasia Frydek. So this guy I actually got as a bulb, as a little bubby, and this was, I don't even know what year that would have been. Let me check my photos. It would have been in 2020, February of 2020, when I had this beautiful Alocasia pop up on the internet, and I was like, it's variegated and velvet. I need that in my life. And so I reached out to an individual that was in Melbourne, and she gave me an awesome price for a little bubby that had not so great variegation, but one promising leaf. So I'll show you guys the photo. And I remember it being such a great price that I was like, what could go wrong? It should be fine. The individual was such a lovely individual. I kind of hope that she is still in the plant community, but there's a part of me that says that she is no longer part of it. And so I went over to her house, I picked it up. I was so rapt. I was so excited. And so it had a couple of months. I remember it going through winter and it didn't die, which I was like so surprised about, because, you know, Alocasia, Melbourne, cold weather, it's bound to go into hibernation. But this one didn't, which was awesome. And then spring came around and I remember it giving me gorgeously, beautifully variegated leaves. I felt more and more in love with it. And at one point, maybe a year or 2 years after, it started to get huge. The variegation was white, it was yellowy, it was just the most insane plant. I actually did a video of it when I unpotted it to see the CORMS. So, I mean, it's a super old video back in 2021 or 2022. So I'll link it up there for you if you wanted to take a look. But it had so many CORMS and I was in love with it. The variegation was outstanding. Fast forward to about maybe how long ago? It was 2 years ago, 3 years ago. And the mother plant is all green. Could you have guessed it, my friends? And if you guys know Alocasia and variegation, it is such a beautiful trap to be in, because you just kind of hope that they don't, they revert. But I think that Alocasia, in my personal opinion, is the most unstable variegation. Monstera can go either way. If you've got great genetics, it's hopefully going to stay and proceed as the plant gets older. But there's something about Alocasia that is just so unpredictable. And so the mama plant I still have, but let me tell you, it's completely just a green velvet. And we did have a couple of CORMS. I remember selling a couple because we had the online store on PCM during the time. I think that was back in 2020, 2021. And so I gave majority of them away. And then do I have any in my care? No, I don't have a Frydek. I wish I did. I have now a reverted Frydek. I wonder if I can find a photo of what it looks like because it's in the greenhouse and I haven't seen it for months. But let me tell you, that was a lesson that I needed to learn, that variegation definitely has its moments of like beauty and gorgeousness, but that it can revert. It has the possibility to revert, and particularly when it comes to alocasia. So the one thing that I learned there was to be wary of like alocasia variegation. I don't think I have any more variegated alocasia, and currently I don't feel the need that I need them, but every so often I see photos of like the Capria that's variegated, or what else is there? There's like a black velvet and the variegation comes out like pink. So they do tempt me. And even the silver dragons tempt me. But I know from experience that I'm like, unless it's got really great genetics and I can like, I don't know, keep it in really bright light, I'm like, we'll stay away from that. That is the lesson that I learned. I mean, just look at these photos. It's ridiculous. It was so yellow. It doesn't hurt as much as the ones that are coming up. So without further ado, let's go into the ones that kind of hurt my heart more. This is just going to get progressively worse, isn't it, for me? Yes. I hope you guys are enjoying this already because this one hurts. Okay, so the next one is a philodendron. So I bought a Philodendron Ilsemanii. Actually, to be more specific, I bought two. And let's take a look at the year. That was back in 2020. And the photo that I took of one of them was back in September of 2020, but I'm pretty sure I bought it like a little bit before then, so maybe a month or two before then. And I bought two because I always wanted an Ilsemanii, and during that time, the prices were outrageous. And if you don't believe me, I'm going to leave a video that I did a couple of weeks ago or months ago that is like incredibly expensive plants or outrageously expensive plants, if you're not sure whether that it is that expensive. But these guys were going in the thousands. And back then, I think I can't remember exactly how much I would have paid, but I'm pretty sure it would have been like around the 2K mark. And I had two, and the variegation was pretty good. I got these two from a grower here in Melbourne who would actually just grow them outside. She said, and it might be a little bit different because it's been a while, but I remember her saying that she bought a Philodendron Ilsemanii way back when. It was at a nursery and maybe like half dying or something like that. And she got it for an absolute bargain. And then years later, it turned out to be a plant that you could sell for thousands and thousands of dollars. So wild. But anyway, I remember reaching out to her because I think she had a Facebook ad on them. And she had quite a few, and you can see that in the photo, they're quite little. So they're not like huge ones. Yeah, these guys were going for a pricey penny back in the day. I did a couple of cuttings, I sold them, but this is where it happens, is in the greenhouse. I remember that during summer in Melbourne, when I guess the greenhouse where it's situated at the moment now has like a lot of shelter where it has like, it's got fences on two sides of the greenhouse, the side where the door is, and on the other side there's like lots of trees. So it's very shaded. But back in the day when we first did it, those trees hadn't been as big or as established, so there wasn't like a ton of shade. And I think we only had the shade cloth. So you can imagine those days where it was like 35 over 40 in Melbourne, that not only did all the plants kind of fry and then had to kind of come back, but during those summers, unfortunately, the Philodendron Ilsemanii, both of them went bye-bye. And at first, I was not quite sure what happened here. I was like, was it watering? Was it this? Was it that? It was later that I realized that with Philodendron Ilsemanii, they actually enjoy being cooler. And I remember the grower that gave them to me, or that I bought off, was saying that she kept them outside in like shaded area, but it was like cooler. Ilsemanii did really well in Melbourne compared to the states up north, which was hotter. I was like, I wonder why that is. And I think it is that Philodendron Ilsemanii actually enjoy being on the cooler side or moderate side, and they hate it when it's very hot. So I fried my two Philodendron Ilsemanii, and I just remember saying to Jacob that they were gone, and he was like, what did you do? And back then I was like, I don't know. But looking backwards, I can definitely tell that it was definitely a temperature dependent thing and that I had fried them, unfortunately. We're getting to the worst ones. These ones really suck. Yep, I'm not gonna lie, these ones suck. And so the third one, my friend, is this Anthurium marmoratum. And let's just check when I bought this bad puppy. So I can see here that it is from like August of 2020. I must have just gone really ham with all my plants that year. But Anthurium marmoratum wasn't really around. It wasn't like a lot of people didn't have it, that it very rarely got on like Facebook pages or anything like that. And it was like a very beautiful, thin-leafed, different shaped Anthurium. So I think a lot of people actually wanted it. And looking back at my I think I was looking at like bank statements or like a transfer screenshot, and I think I spent like $2,500 on this puppy, which is outrageous because right now at this very moment, these guys can go for like $100, $80 if they're small. And this one wasn't particularly like huge. I think it was like more on the moderate side. So yes, you can see that the times and the prices have changed quite a bit. And I mean, let's just take a look at the photos we got. And I'm wondering if you guys can see like what went wrong. I'm interested for you to try and take a guess. So let's do this. I'm going to show you guys the stem. I'm going to show you guys the leaves and maybe some of the roots. And I'm wondering if you guys can kind of tell what happened here in this story. So I think two things happened looking backwards. I couldn't tell at the time, and I remember messaging the grower or the seller at the time. And so when I had received that plant, it had already had a little bit of root rot upon arrival. And so when I received it, it was in sphagnum moss. And I think a lot of people back in the day, I'm not even sure at the moment because I don't necessarily buy a lot of plants anymore, but a lot of people would take them out of their pot and put it in sphagnum moss. And so it was in sphagnum moss, and I remember undoing it and I saw a little bit of rot, which I immediately contacted the seller. And luckily, like, I cut a bit of the roots off. I wasn't certain if it was going to make it or not, but it was very clear to me that the leaves were deteriorating so quickly. And so this plant was on the decline very, very fast. And what happened was the first thing that died was the roots, and it had root rot. And then the next point was that the leaves started to go all yellow and fall off. And I remember that it came down to a teeny tiny stump with a teeny tiny aerial root, and I was praying that it would make it. Unfortunately, it did not. It died. And looking backwards, the reason for it, I think, is one, that it had root rot and I couldn't really get on top of it. The thing with marmoratum is, one, that I've learned is that they are super susceptible to infection, whether that is bacterial or fungal infection. The leaves are just so thin. I think every winter, if I have marmoratum, they normally go south. And two is that the roots are so fine that it is actually also very susceptible to root rot. So what I think I did wrong here, and also if you look at this video, is that if you look at the pot that I put it in, it also, not only did it have root rot beforehand, but when I put it into the soil, the pot was too big. So I think it just like exacerbated the rot again. And I can't remember back in the day if I actually treated it, but I'm hoping past Sam back in 2020 would have. And it also suffered from fungal. And you can probably see that in the leaves, in that they've got like little yellow marks, which again, the combination of overwatering, winter, fungal infections, root rot, big pot, it all went down south very quickly. And I think I killed that guy in less than like 6 months. It still pains me. If there is one of the biggest lessons that I've learned, it's that before you make an investment in a expensive plant, or pretty much any plant in general, but particularly ones that are very expensive, is that you should do your research and make sure that you have the environment or the knowledge or the skill set to look after it. Because back in 2020, your girl was just way too excited to get this, that, and this, looking at photos, being like, I need that in my collection, and not really thinking about where does this plant come from and what is the environment that will suit it. And that is one of the biggest lessons that you could possibly be taking from this video, is that if you plan to buy a plant for your space, for your environment, is that are you able to give it that care or that environment? And if not, maybe it is not the plant for you. So yeah, that was quite the expensive lesson too. These are all very expensive lessons, which is why it is such a disaster in my books. Because I've killed a lot of plants, don't get me wrong. I think it would be in the hundreds, if not thousands. No, not thousands yet. No, I don't think thousands, but definitely in the hundreds, is that I have killed so many plants. But these are the ones that were disasters and hurt the most. Moving right along. Okay. This one, so remember the lesson that I told you about making sure that you knew what you were getting yourself into before making a very big investment? Yeah, this girl, Sam, back in 2020, someone's got to stop her. Someone's got to stop her. And it was, let's look at this unboxing, shall we? So this was November of 2019. And I remember finding this big, glorious Anthurium forgetii, which now, when I look back, it's actually a Anthurium forgetii crystallinum, or crystallinum forgetii, and it was spectacular. I think that back in 2019, there was nothing like this. There was like velvety things, sure, but it was a forgetii, so it had the closed sinus. It was huge. It was dark. It was gorgeous. And let's just say I spent a very, very, very big pretty penny on this guy. Yes. Why don't we just like relive the unboxing together? Let's play this video, shall we?
So this right here is my Anthurium forgetii, and I have been wanting this plant for so long.
It's bigger than my face.
With very like little leaves, and they go for about like an immense amount, like $400 or $500. I was like, oh, haven't found the right one. I'll leave it for now. And boy, did I get
wow.
the most beautiful one.
How many leaves is
So
that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Humongous leaves, and just
look how excited 2019 Sam is. She's so cute.
Like that, and those two right there, and that one behind there.
All right, that's enough, I reckon. But anyway, and I'm going to also show you the photos of the beautiful leaves that caught my attention, and that was like, that one's mine. So there are 2 photos of the leaves, and you guys can see just how enormous it was. It was this gorgeous 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 leafed amazing cutting. Yes, I said it, cutting with 5 leaves. An inflow, you can see that there are almost no roots. There are aerial roots, and yes, I'm wondering if you guys can see where this is going. Lots of leaves, no roots. And even when I take a look of the unboxing, the leaves already start to look like it's wilting just a little bit. And to be honest, it's probably because it had no roots. It could not take up the water. Here I have some more photos I have in 2019. And so here's the story, is that I bought this on a whim, getting so excited, it finally came to me. I ended up putting it in leca, and definitely in a pot that was way too big for it. And I guess the problem here is that I had no idea what the heck I was doing with leca. I think that the grower or the seller that sold it to me mentioned leca, and I just kind of like grabbed onto that information, being like, yes, we will try leca. And to this day, I still don't think I love leca. I know that a lot of people do because of like the soilless, that it's really optimal, whether they do it like actively or passively. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that love it. For me personally, I'm not in love with it, unfortunately. I'm more of like a mix it yourself media, organic kind of gal. What happened? It was just in like a way too big of a pot, and your girl had her sister's wedding, Tiff's, my older sister Tiff's wedding in the US. So I bought this of November of 2019, and then I believe it was either December or January, one of the two. We ended up going to the US for my sister's wedding, and I left it with two of my most beautiful planty friends. And to this day, I should have known, and I feel incredibly horrendous about it because I should have done my research. I should have known that like a cutting like that with that many leaves and so little roots was something that I should not be getting if I was going overseas, because I needed to be like looking at the roots. If anything, looking backwards, I would actually have like cut off majority of the leaves and kept maybe like one. Definitely cut the inflow off, and I don't know whether I did or did not back in the day. If I cut that off, maybe I did. But yes, cut off the inflow, cut majority of the leaves off, and just keep the stem and try to root the stem, whether that is in like sphagnum moss, tree fern fiber, perlite or vermiculite, something, because that thing definitely needed roots. And that was just your girl just being incredibly naive, not having the knowledge of knowing that something that big, like a cutting, definitely needed roots to be cut up and a lot more like TLC. So it definitely wasn't fair on my behalf of being like, hi friends, I'm going away for a couple of weeks. Can you look after this? So unfortunately, it went down south very, very quickly, and I do not even blame them. I definitely blame myself for that. I think I was gone for like 3 weeks or 4 weeks, and when I returned, I think it had maybe 2 leaves, if not 1 leaf back. So here's a photo of the 1 leafer. It must have been when I came back. And yeah, unfortunately, that guy is also not with us, but it is outrageous to me that that was a Anthurium forgetii crystallinum, and there are so many of those out in the world right now, not just even in Australia, but worldwide. That thing is like so easy to find and so easy to like hybridize and make. So there's a part of me that's like, I could always just buy another one, but this one still hurts. This one, I should have known better. So, learn from my mistakes, my friends, is that if you are buying a cutting, just to make sure that you've got enough roots, that you know what you're getting into, I'd probably recommend not to go away for an extended period of time after you get something that needs that much care. That one was a big lesson. Clearly, I didn't learn my lesson because that was back in 2019. And then all the ones that we have just previously spoken about were back in 2020. So, oh, past Sam. But if there is one thing that I wish for you guys to take away from this video is that we make mistakes. I think that is totally part of the plant journey, is that there is only one way to learn, and that's either by doing your research or by experiencing it yourself. So I definitely had to experience it, and I learned a lot from these last 4 plants that have come into my life and also exited. Besides the green velvet, that still stays in the greenhouse. But you're probably wondering, Sam, you said that you had 5. Yes, my friends, I do have 5. So those were the 4 plants that I would say were the biggest disasters in my brain and what I've learned. But the one that hits home the most is this very last one. And it's because it's not just one plant. It is not one plant. It is lots of plants. And it was, of course, the one, the only Vivarium that was in PCM. If you guys have no idea what I'm talking about, I'm going to link this video up above telling you the story of what happened to our beautiful Vivarium. And so to give you a bit of a recap, this Vivarium was created by the one and only Ted, that is from Atelier Anthurium, and he does living art pieces. And this tank has been with us for years. I think it's definitely over 1 year. Maybe it was getting closer to 2. I can't remember. It's in the video, so make sure to take a look. But it definitely grew over time. I remember when it first landed in the store, when he started planting all the plants, we got stuck with it for a little bit, being like, what's wrong with it? And then it flourished and looked absolutely beautiful. And then we decided that we wanted to take it to the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show. And great idea in theory. Execution-wise, horrendous. And that's because we took the tank, which at the time was like over 80 kilograms. This thing was so big and so heavy. And we managed to put it on some like wooden, I don't know, Ted made this like contraption that was like soft and was made out of wood and could travel and whatnot. And so we put it in the van, we strapped it down. I definitely have some footage of us strapping it down, and it looked all well and good. But even though the travel time was like less than 10 minutes, that was like less than 3 kilometers away from PCM to the show's location, that in the two, getting it over there, having it at the show, and then also getting it back, it managed to crack the bottom. And that was just so incredibly devastating, because I feel like this tank, Ted and I just went on this journey, and after taking it to the Melbourne International Flower and Garden Show, it could no longer be with us. So it was devastating. I've done a lot of reels about it, so if you guys want to know the full story, you're welcome to go on Instagram and go to part 1, 2, 3, and we are about to get part 4, which is awesome, on Instagram. But that was probably the biggest like punch in the gut, maybe like grabbed my heart and like twisted it, and because not only has it been with us, it was also Ted's art. And there were so many plants and beautiful things that were in it. And it had just an immense amount of sentimental value and like a journey. It had its own story, its journey that has been with us. But there is a silver lining. And I have to remember the silver lining. And that is, yes, that tank ended, but a new one is beginning. And so we do have the new tank in the store. And I don't think many people have seen it because I haven't really posted about it. It landed a couple of days ago. And so it was Ted, Jacob, and another individual that moved it into the store. It wasn't as heavy as 80 kilograms, but it was still very heavy. And Ted is working on it. So I'm not going to show you guys yet because the plants haven't even been planted. The tank is here, the scaping has been done, but not the plants. So while something has ended, something new has come about, is being born again. So I like to think of it as a new chapter, a new beginning. And so even though it was something that was so horrendous and it still kind of hurts my heart, that it has given rise to a new, beautiful vivarium, and I can't wait to show you guys. So I'm sure we're going to do another video on it, probably take you through the story, the whole story of the tank and the new one that is to come too. But that pretty much wraps up this week's video, my friends. So thank you guys so much for watching. I'm going to link another video up here, and just in case you wish to continue watching. Let's chat down below. I would love to hear you guys' like plant stories. I wouldn't necessarily call them disasters, don't get me wrong, but plant stories or plant deaths, if you will, or passings, in which that you've learned something valuable from on your plant journey. And I hope that, yes, this video is a little bit comedic, but I also hope that you guys take some value from it and feel a little bit less pressure in that if you have plants and they die and you have to learn the process, that it's not a bad thing. It's part of the journey, and I hope that you're not too hard on yourself, because at the end of the day, it's plants and it's the learning journey. We will continue to kill plants, and I definitely know that I will too. So any lesson that you are willing to share with the community, please feel free to chuck it down here. Make sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you guys in the next video. Bye!